This video is going to be a little raw because I'm going to talk about something that everyone is going to have to experience in their life, and I've never uh, really had to, luckily, until now. And it's aging parents. So I'm in my mid to late 50s. And first, I want to say that I am the luckiest man on the planet because I am almost 60 years old and both of my parents are still alive and healthy. And I don't know anybody, I don't have a single friend around my age that has both of their parents healthy and alive. Maybe they've lost one, maybe they have lost both, maybe they have both, but they're sick. And my whole life, I'm able to call up my parents and go see them and visit them like a 20-year-old who's just coming home from college for my entire life. Now, my parents are divorced, and they've actually been divorced for 50 years. So the idea that both of my parents have now managed to stay healthy and have completely separate, independent lives, remarried. My father's remarried. He's been remarried for 40 plus years. He's mid 80s. And up until a year ago, lived in his house that he had lived in since I was living there. I'm talking even in the 70s. I noticed about a year or so ago he started like forgetting things, and once he left the water running in his bathroom and left the house for a few hours, came back and flooded the house. Okay. But the thing is, you talk to him on the phone and everything's good, but he started admitting things to me like, I can't remember something, and I was watching this movie and I can't remember if I've seen it before, and I can't remember the birthday anymore. And so, and then also he lives in a two-story house, and he's like, I'm having trouble getting to sometimes to the second floor just to get up to my bed or to my, he has a little office up there, or to come down. And it's starting to become too much for him just to do the steps. He lives in the Midwest in a small town, and it was becoming clear that maybe he needed to be in a place where if there was an emergency, there was somebody he could call. And so about a year ago, he moved. My brothers and sisters decided that he needed to go into, say, an assisted living. At the time, he was very excited to do it, and he sold the house, and he's been in this place now where he doesn't have to worry about food. However, I've heard this happen, and it's happening. When you become sort of in your 80s, mid 80s, have a change of scenery, it can have a profound effect on your mental and physical being. And that has started to happen. Moving him into this place has accelerated his helplessness, his forgetfulness, his ability to walk. It's suddenly finally happening to me where I'm seeing him go downhill. It's the first time, here I am almost 60, putting the realization in my own head like, hey, my father might not be here in a year or two or less. And so many friends have dealt with it so much younger than I have and accepted it, moved on. And here I am at 60 going, huh? What? How did I miss this? How did I walk through this so happily? Like my parents have never been ill. They've never been in the hospital. They've never had cancer. They've never had a problem. They've never said, I've fallen and I can't get up. And now that's starting to happen. And my brothers and sisters are there to help, certainly the ones that live close to him to support. And I'm realizing I've got to go there and support him, but really I've got to go there and recognize that every time I see him may be the last time I see him in this phase. He could be declining each time. And I really need to get out there and cherish those last times. I just don't like that idea because I've been lucky enough to go this long only getting together with him, and he's been completely independent. Like, I'll call him up, say, hey, Dad, meet me at a restaurant, and we'd meet and hang out. But now I'd be like, I got to go pick him up and drive him and park in the handicap spot and make sure he can sit in that restaurant, make sure he's okay eating, make sure he's dressed himself properly, and then take him back. There's been no doctor diagnosing him with sickness, or it's just a slow decline that I'm seeing. So I get to mentally get myself ready for that. So now let's talk about my mother. My mother is 80 a jet setter. She's currently in Europe for a few weeks, traveling around. And as long as I've known her, she has been completely independent. She's been the hippest woman in the room. She's been married 4 times, my father being the first time. She has outlived her second husband and her fourth husband. And she's now 80 years old, and suddenly she hurt her ankle, and instead of her running around 100 different ways, she's like, I have to stay in bed for 3 weeks and nurse it. And that wasn't my mother. My mother's never been able to stay in one place for 3 weeks. She's got 100 friends. She's got 100 projects all at the same time, all the time. She is on her phone, texting, making phone calls. She goes to a bridge group every day. Her mind is sharp. Her body looks great for her age. And because my father isn't doing well, I've had to start looking at my mother going, what happens on the day that she falls? Because she's not the kind of person that's going to go to that nursing home. She's going to go 100 miles an hour until literally she just doesn't wake up one day. She's not going to take aging easily at all. She's not going to take a serious illness easily. She's not going to take slowing down physically easily. She's going to go at 100 miles an hour and then just say, okay, I can't go. I want out. I talk to both of my parents multiple times a week. I make sure they're okay. I tell them about my day. I tell them about my kids or their grandkids. I see them as much as I can. I check in on them without them realizing that I'm checking in on them by calling other people that they know and asking how are they doing. But I have to prepare for the fact that they're in their 80s and they may not see 90. No one lives to be 100, even though I wish they would. And at some point, I'm now the senior person. I have children. I'm the patriarch now. And I still defer to them until the day that I can't. And when that can't happens, it's going to happen quickly. And it's life, you know. I used to watch The Lion King, and Mufasa would talk about the circle of life, and I was like, oh, whatever. But I get it. I much preferred being like who I felt like, which was Homer Simpson, who doesn't age and who's been on the air for 35 years and whose father is still alive and doesn't seem to want to die, and Mr. Burns doesn't want to seem to die, and everyone old there on that show doesn't seem to want to die, and everyone just sort of like lives for decades and decades and decades like that. That's how I've been. It's been great. It's just, you know, I like calling them. I like talking to them. And then one day that's just going to stop. I get I'm lucky. I get that it happens. But it doesn't make it easy. And I guess I've gone too long, too lucky too long. So I haven't had to think about it. You know, I feel my own age. And sometimes I feel like I'm probably feeling like I'm older than they are. How do they do it? What do I do with my last remaining time, which I don't know when it'll end? How do I leave nothing on the table? You know, Anderson Cooper wrote a book called Nothing Left Unsaid about dealing with his mother as she aged. I get that. That's my rant.